in our business that we could follow similar principles. And the principles would be, we describe an expected path, right? When we are let's say sitting now over the 1 year, we will describe a path that this is where we want to go and how we are going to achieve. And then we also play out the margin of errors, what would happen plus and what would happen minus. So plus minus 200 miles, right? So you need to have a worst case scenario and the best case scenario and maybe another kind of scenario. So we need to have a uncertainty and a possible range of the outcomes. What would be the outcome in possible scenarios? As we go closer, right? We need to clarify the hypothesis behind the predictions. As we go closer, we need to also see whether our hypothesis, which we actually planned earlier, are playing out the way we have expected or not, right? So you have to be clear. You have to be clear on that, and we need to track the validity of those hypotheses so that we know whether the outcomes that we are predicting are going to play out in the same way or not. So for example, you may need to track the government policies, you may need to track the GDP, you may need to track the pandemic growth, you may need to track the technological changes in the environment, you need to change the social policies, the stimulus, the consumer behavior. Now the consumer behavior also changing very fast. Until last month, in Myanmar, we were not expecting that domestic travel will start, because there was no way that just 6 months ago we had a political coup, and the domestic economy was crumbling and the currency is crumbling. So we had no hope, right? So suddenly, over a single month, the things started to change. Things started to fall down in its place. The currency situation is not too bad now. The domestic travel is starting up again. The businesses are slowly opening up. So means there's no change in the ground situation. The political uncertainty is still there. The businesses, the peoples are still not happy, but on the business side, things are changing slowly, and it changed over a period of 1 month. It changed like dramatically, right? So we have now a very strong domestic travel business, which shows that the hypotheses were wrong. So we adjust our hypothesis, and now we are forecasting that okay, next 3 months we are going to get certain good business. So we change our way of forecasting, and we strategically change our priorities immediately, right? So that's fast. So that's why we say it has to be agile, it has to be fast, and we need to track the hypothesis, and then we change those which are wrong and adapt the plan to achieve the best possible results in light of most accurate information. So that's that's the principles, right? So the first principle is describe the expected path, which can be very general, and we need to have the range of outcomes where we would reach. We need to identify and clearly identify what are the hypotheses behind these assumptions, what are we asking it to be true in order to achieve the outcomes. And then we track those hypotheses on a regular basis to see whether the hypotheses are playing out as we expected or not, and then immediately change those which are wrong, which does not work out as we think, and adapt the plans to the best possible information that we are able to get now. Because we have if the business has been tracking the assumptions, then it must know already that what are the possible outcomes that they can think in the change scenario, right? So that's the business planning. So during uncertainty, you need to be having a shorter budget, more frequent, like monthly or quarterly, and don't go beyond a certain time limit, like don't go beyond 6 months. Maybe stay within 6 months limit for a detailed budget, for a more concrete budget, but beyond 6 months, maybe a broader range. So my means like you may need to have your options open. So when we are doing a budget, we need to sometimes commit to the capital expenditure plans, which could have a long term impact. Now when we are planning those things, we need to be careful and commit only when we know that there is some certainty. In uncertain times, there is no point in committing to a certain capital expenditure when we know that the when we don't know what the outcome will be.